Check out how ruthless this guy is. After beating a prison boss to death, he easily takes his place as the strongest man. His name is Mike. He used to be a master thief but ended up in prison due to an unexpected incident. After 15 years, he's free. On his first day out, he goes to a bar alone. Even after 15 years, he's still incredibly charming. With just one look, he makes the bar owner's heart flutter. The two of them get it on in the bar stockroom. After getting his fill, Mike casually steals a car from the roadside and drives off. He then heads to a barbershop downtown. But the moment the barber sees him, his expression changes. He knows exactly why Mike's there, but he can do nothing about it. Mike breaks the silence. Give me the address, job. Now, it turns out that 15 years ago, Mike and Carrie were a team of super thieves, but during one heist, something unexpected happened. To protect his girlfriend, Mike got caught, and now he's here to find out where she is. This guy, Job, is Mike's longtime best friend and a true hacker. After a few simple programming steps, he found the address of Mike's girlfriend. After getting a lead on his girlfriend's whereabouts, he immediately prepared to go there. But just then, out of nowhere, a hitman appeared and started firing at him relentlessly. Mike had no choice but to dodge the attacks, eventually even stealing someone's motorcycle to escape the scene. After riding through many streets, Mike finally arrived at the town of Banshee. He then went to a bar, wanted to stop there for a drink and a rest. He generously ordered a cocktail. The bar owner's name was Sugar, a former boxing champ who was now living a low-key life here. Business wasn't exactly booming, so he even had to sell his gold medal. Sugar, a man who'd seen a thing or two, could tell right away that Mike had just finished a prison stint because he had done 8 years. The two hit it off and chatted for a while, and just like that, Sugar became Mike's first friend after getting out of prison. Just then, another unfamiliar man walked into the bar. His name was Lucas Hood, and it was his first time in this town. He was a newly appointed sheriff coming in from the city. He was set to officially start work next week. Right then, 2 other guys came in demanding money. The owner was talking with the men when 2 guys with mean-looking faces walked in. It turns out they were the town's local mobsters who were there to collect protection money. They swaggered up to the owner, demanding the cash, not realizing that the guy sitting next to him was the newly appointed sheriff. Hood was still eating when, the next second, he had a gun pointed right at his head. The tension between the 2 sides was incredibly high. Mike stood up at this point, hoping to prevent things from escalating, but the other guys weren't about to let it go that easily. After a few moves, Mike wiped the floor with those guys, but unfortunately, Officer Hood caught a bullet. He didn't think his career would be this short, especially before he was even officially on the force. The whole thing happened so fast that the 2 of them were completely stunned. 3 dead bodies. 2 were big shot protection racketeers, and 1 was a cop who hadn't even started his first day. This was a huge problem. Sugar told Mike to get out of there fast, and that he'd handle the rest. After leaving the bar, Mike went to his ex-girlfriend Carrie's place. Turns out, she was married now and had a son and a daughter. Hearing this blew Mike's mind. He couldn't believe this was what he got after waiting patiently for 15 years. Carrie said, annoyed, "You're going to get me caught by the Rabbits gang." Turns out, 15 years ago, they were both working for this mob boss, Master Rabbit. But during a job, they teamed up and stole a fortune in diamonds. Mike took the fall so Carrie could escape, and he ended up doing 15 years in prison. Now, he was out and Rabbit's guys were still after him. It was unbelievable that Carrie was out here, living it up with someone else. All Mike wanted now was to get back the money that was rightfully his. But Carrie said that the diamonds had already been taken back by Rabbit's gang. This completely crushed him. Not only did he not get the diamonds, but he also lost the woman he loved. Lost and with nowhere to go, Mike went back to see Sugar again, deciding to help him get rid of the bodies. Afterward, the 2 went to a secluded forest, planning to dispose of the evidence there. But just then, the dead sheriff's phone started ringing. Mike hesitated for a moment, but picked up the phone. It was the mayor calling. Turns out, to welcome the new sheriff, the mayor had invited him to meet tomorrow. An idea suddenly sparked in Mike's mind. He would assume Hood's identity as the sheriff and continue living here. "All right, see you tomorrow." Sugar was curious after the call, asking if he'd figured out a plan. Mike confidently replied, "I can handle this." I'll just turn on the charm. Little did this recently released ex-con know that he had just stumbled upon something that would change his life forever. The newly appointed sheriff was unexpectedly killed in a bar fight, so Mike seized a chance to assume his identity and stay in this town. Mike called his friend Job, asking him to forge a new identity for him. For a hacker like Job, this was a piece of cake. He directly hacked into the system and successfully swapped out Lucas, Hood's identity records. Just like that, Mike started living as a sheriff in the town, temporarily staying at Sugar's place. From that day forward, he was Lucas Hood. The next day, as arranged, he went to the restaurant to meet the mayor. He was surprised to find that the mayor was so young. Luckily, the mayor had never met Hood before, so he didn't suspect Mike's fake identity. The mayor got straight to the point, revealing that he wanted to team up with Mike to take down a man named Proctor, a local kingpin involved in all sorts of illegal activities. His business was a slaughterhouse, but that was just a front. On the surface, it's just a slaughterhouse. But behind closed doors, it's a whole different story. This is a front for some seriously shady stuff. The guy running it is corrupt to the core. He's got cops and even city council members bought and paid for. That's why he needs someone he can trust to team up with him and expose this whole operation. After that, the mayor took Mike to the police station and told the deputy to show him around town. While they were cruising and checking things out, they stumbled on a fight breaking out at the lumberyard. Mike stepped in to break it up, announcing he was a cop, but these guys didn't give a damn. They were looking to teach the new officer a lesson. But these guys had no idea they were messing with an ex-con who used to run the prison yard. Mike just used a few simple moves. They were all down on the ground. Turns out, the guy in charge was Proctor, the dude who controlled all the crime in town. But when he saw the new sheriff, he acted politely and even apologized to him. After everyone left, Proctor walked over to the lumberyard owner. Turns out, this guy was his dad. His dad always kept things on the straight and narrow, but Proctor kept getting mixed up in shady stuff, so their relationship was pretty strained. Afterward, Proctor went back to his slaughterhouse and called out the guy, Cole, who had been giving his dad a hard time. He said, "I heard you call my dad a son of a bitch." Cole, looking scared, admitted, "I didn't know it was your dad, sir." Next thing you know, Proctor was beating the crap out of him. He used to be a master thief, but now he's a cop in a small town. Today is his first day on the job, and he's even got a beautiful woman adjusting his uniform. Talk about a lucky guy. Turns out, they're about to attend a celebration party. Meanwhile, his good friend Job is in a bit of a mess. Because he helped Mike change his identity back, Rabbit's henchmen have come looking for him. But Job was prepared for this. He thought he could handle it, but things didn't go as planned. He then lied about going to his room to get some documents and ended up playing those two guys like a cat toying with mice. Job went into the room and escaped through a secret passage. He even blew the place up on his way out. On the other side of town, to welcome the new officer, Proctor threw him a welcome party. Unexpectedly, his ex-girlfriend Carrie and her husband were also there. She was shocked to see Mike there, disguised as a cop. During the party, Mike secretly took Carrie to a place and opened a spare compartment, revealing an old safe. Carrie used to be an expert at cracking safes, so this time he wanted her to help him open this one. But Carrie refused. To put the past behind her, she wanted to completely cut ties with Mike and then turned to leave. But just then, something unexpected happened. This man is Cole. Earlier today, his boss beat him up, so he came to this party to get revenge. He straight up grabbed a gun and stormed into the party, the damn bastard. Luckily, Mike showed up just in time. His actions scared the hell out of everyone. They couldn't believe the new cop was so ruthless. Meanwhile, downtown, the mob boss was still searching for Mike and Carrie. Find those two now. Mike was taken by a realtor to check out a new house, and this realtor happened to be his ex-girlfriend. When they got to the kitchen, Mike couldn't hold back and pushed Carrie against the wall, kissing her. Just then, Carrie's co-worker suddenly walked in, which finally made them stop. Turns out, she had a call, so her co-worker brought her the phone. The call was from the school. It turned out her daughter skipped class today, and right now, that daughter was out messing around with some other troublemakers. Then Dava was taken by her boyfriend to a house in the suburbs, a real den of iniquity. The guy named Hansen was one of Proctor's men, but he was trying to secretly make a deal behind his boss's back. He's using this small workshop to make a big money deal during a party tomorrow night, and that's why he invited Deva and a few others to join in. Meanwhile, Proctor went to see Mike and gave him some cash as a thank you for saving his life. Since Mike took out Cole yesterday, Proctor warned him to watch out for the Moody brothers, worrying that they might come after him for revenge. That evening, Mike went to grab some food at Sugar's place, but unexpectedly, Sugar kicked him out. Turns out, Cole's brothers were there having a drink, and Sugar didn't want any trouble for Mike. Then he pulled out a sandwich, handed it to him, and told him to get out of there fast. With no other choice, Mike just sat outside the door, gnawing on the sandwich. Just then, a woman walked up. Her name was Kat, and she was Cole's wife. Without a word, she slapped him across the face. Before Mike could even react, Cole's brothers showed up, pointing their guns at him. They claimed they were there to get revenge for their brother, but Mike didn't fight back. He just walked right up and stood in front of their guns. Shoot! Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Marcus, Dexter, your coffee's getting cold. The guy shot back. This ain't your business, Sugar. No! I'm making it my business. Luckily, Sugar showed up just in time to get Mike out of there. Otherwise, who knows what those two drunks would have done. After everyone left, another easy target popped up right in front of Mike. A pretty girl from the crowd. He said to her, "You must be tired." It was clear he'd set his sights on her. Unexpectedly, he successfully brought the beauty home right after. If you want to see the details, please search for and watch the original. The next day, the police received a report. It turned out that someone wanted to have a party tonight in the farm's rice warehouse. He suspected that this was an illegal activity, so he hoped Mike could ensure the safety of their family. "This is my daughter, Rebecca." Mike recalled the scene from yesterday. Unexpectedly, in front of her father, Rebecca was so well behaved. At this time, the police were also equipped with weapons, preparing to go to the farm, determined to catch the criminals in one fell swoop. Meanwhile, in the warehouse, a group of people was partying, completely unaware. Deva was also brought here by her boyfriend. After taking the red pill, she started dancing wildly. At this moment, the police squad arrived. They wanted to take off their uniforms and sneak in to check out the situation. After quietly dealing with the two guards outside, they smoothly entered the party. The planner of this party was none other than Proctor's henchman, Hansen. When Mike was about to take action, some young people suddenly fell to the ground, convulsing. Mike immediately contacted the police outside, preparing to stop the party and arrest them all. Then, he went to comfort the panicked Deva. Just then, the police suddenly rushed in, cut off the power, and ordered everyone to leave. But at this moment, Hansen fired his gun at them, the ceiling to intimidate them. The scene was chaotic. The cunning Hansen quickly took advantage of this opportunity to escape. The young people who fell to the ground were no longer showing signs of life. It was confirmed that one of those young people was the son of Congressman Schumacher. After dealing with the scene, Mike brought Deva home safely. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hansen, who had escaped, went to find Proctor. He paid a painful price for this. This was the price for betraying him. Although Proctor was involved in illegal activities, he knew better than to get involved in anything too close to home. He had never done business right in town. Yet Hansen used drugs to kill a minor, and to top it all off, the son of a state congressman. After that, only his screams could be heard. The scene changes to our main character, Mike, who is still drinking at Sugar's place. At this moment, Rebecca appears by his side, drunk and uninhibited. The two of them give in to their desires. But Mike could never have guessed that the seemingly ordinary girl was Proctor's niece. A woman, disheveled and barely clothed, stumbled out of a mobile home. After a night of torment, she was a complete wreck, barely able to walk a few steps before collapsing to the ground. Fortunately, she was taken to the hospital in time. Mike received the news and rushed over. After inquiring, he learned that the woman had been brutally tortured by a boxer. The woman struggled to describe what happened, saying, "He kicked me, he hit me, and then he used a champagne bottle." After hearing the woman's story, Mike decides to get justice for her. He then goes with the female officer to the boxing gym, ready to arrest that beast. But at this moment, they are stopped by Proctor. Turns out, The boxing champion was brought in by him for an upcoming competition. To ensure the competition goes smoothly, the champion's assistant even offers Mike money to let it go. Mike then goes directly to the champ, initially planning to fight to arrest him, but the guy shows no resistance, even boldly provoking him, "Come and get me." This action completely enraged Mike. After getting into the ring, before the guy could even react, Mike punched him twice. But this only excited him more. He took off his jacket, ready to have a serious fight with Mike. Facing a professional boxer like this, Mike had to be cautious. The two fought from the ring to the floor. Mike grabbed a bottle and smashed it over his head, then charged at him and tackled him. Then, Mike bit him hard. The boxer's bones were quickly broken, but Mike didn't show any mercy and even forcefully bent his fingers. Finally, he finished the fight with an extremely brutal move. Mike's actions shocked everyone at the scene. They couldn't believe the new cop would be so ruthless. Therefore, Sugar took Mike back to the bar. At this moment, Proctor had already come knocking. This fight caused him significant losses. Proctor's family has lived in this town for nearly 160 years. No one has ever dared to mess with him, yet Mike ruined all his plans just like that. Facing him would certainly be a deep-seated grudge. For now, Proctor could only swallow his anger and leave. On the other side, Proctor's henchman has also gone to find the boxing champion's assistant. Because the competition can no longer take place, according to the agreement, the champion must return the competition fee. But the other party isn't willing to listen to reason. If he doesn't want trouble, he should just drop this matter. Now I have to go deal with some business, and you get out of here. But he didn't expect that the seemingly serious and bookish brother was already furious. He took off his glasses and then went straight into the car. Following that, only miserable screams could be heard. After a few minutes, the assistant finished his job and stepped out. At the same time, there was no more sound from inside the car. He calmly put his glasses back on, grabbed a bag of money, and then left proudly. The man just stepped out of the bathroom, and in the next second, he had a gun pointed at him. The opponent ordered, "Stop, put the cuffs on." The man obediently followed. Next, Carrie took out a black bag and threw it on the bed. Inside, it turned out to be the diamonds worth thousands of dollars. This man's name is Rabbit. He used to be Carrie's boss. 15 years ago, she and Mike stole these diamonds together. So this time, she came back to return these diamonds in exchange for her life. But what he wanted wasn't just the diamonds. It was to kill the man who betrayed him. He tried to persuade Carrie to join him, saying, "Help me catch him, and I'll let you go." She knew very well that this evil man would not spare either of them. In this critical moment, she could only knock him unconscious, then take the diamonds and leave. Afterward, Carrie went to where Mike was staying and gave him the bag of diamonds. She just wanted Mike to take the diamonds and leave this place as far away as possible and never disturb her life again. You think this can be solved with money? I'm not going anywhere. Take these damn diamonds and get lost. Mike didn't come for the diamonds. He came because of the feelings he couldn't let go of over the past 15 years. The next day, Congressman Schumacher came to find Mike. Because his son was poisoned to death, he put pressure on Mike, demanding that he quickly catch Hansen. Through investigation, it was discovered that a man named Arnold had a very close relationship with Hansen. So Mike took the police to find him, but was met with resistance from a strange man. After that, he found Arnold in a room. He took a severed hand out of the refrigerator. It turned out that while working at Proctor's slaughterhouse, he accidentally witnessed Proctor's violent act and even recorded a video. Now that there were enough witnesses and evidence, the police immediately ordered Proctor's arrest. Afterward, Mike went to Proctor's house. With no other choice, Proctor had to obediently let himself be taken away. While Mike was taking Proctor in for questioning, an unexpected incident suddenly occurred. They were driving on the road when suddenly an accident happened, and the police car was hit and rolled down the cliff. It turned out that this was not just a normal accident, but a deliberate murder. The Moody brothers, to avenge their brother Cole, had set up this plan. But they didn't expect that Proctor would also be with Mike. He also wanted to take this opportunity to pull out all his teeth to avenge his brother. But Proctor's influence in the town was undeniable. Everyone respected him. Because their target this time was Mike, they didn't want to get involved with Proctor. Then they jumped on Mike, wanting to teach him a lesson he would never forget. But in the end, Mike fought back, even cutting off one's ear, beating them until they couldn't get up. However, at this moment, one of them took out a gun and aimed it at him, but Mike knew he wouldn't dare to shoot. He also didn't intend to take their lives, so he gave them a chance to leave quickly, as if today's incident never happened. At this moment, Mike's colleague appeared, directly pointing a gun at him. The smart ones wouldn't be blinded by immediate gains. They had no choice but to obediently leave. After that, they returned to the police station. From there, Mike went to the bar to unwind. After Sugar heard the news, he felt that Mike was a very principled person. So he wanted to work with him because he didn't want to waste the rest of his life in the bar anymore. When Mike left the bar and returned home, he found Kat sitting on his doorstep waiting for him. Kat was Cole's wife and also a member of the Moody family. She knew about her brother-in-law's revenge, but she wasn't angry. Instead, she kindly reminded him, telling Mike to be more careful because her brothers-in-law could come looking for him to cause trouble at any time. This unexpected concern was hard for Mike to accept. And this woman, who had just lost her husband, couldn't hold back anymore. So the two of them went inside and had a little exercise. It has to be said that the main character's charm is quite strong. The next day, Proctor was taken to court, but because there was no clear evidence to convict him, he only had to pay bail and wait for the next step of the investigation. And the biggest problem right now was a witness. Proctor ordered his subordinates to quickly deal with this matter. After the court was dismissed, Job came to find Mike. Because he was forced to blow up his hair salon, he wanted Mike to take full responsibility and even wanted to stay in this town permanently. On another side, the witness, Arnold, had been placed under protective custody, waiting to testify when the investigation proceeded further. Just then, a strange noise came from outside. The deputy immediately sensed danger. A woman walking on the street was suddenly stopped by a group of thugs. Despite her resistance, she was still dragged into an alley by these bastards. When they were about to make their move, Mr. Sugar appeared just in time. He calmly advised them to leave, but they didn't listen and directly attacked him. They still didn't realize the seriousness of the situation and rushed to fight him. In the end, they were all beaten to the ground by him. When he was about to advise them to stop, he was unexpectedly attacked from behind by one of them. The leader among them wanted to stay and deal with her, so the rest left first. At this moment, the female officer also noticed something unusual. She then pulled out her gun and prepared to go check it out. She decisively fired her gun. One of the thugs, although he noticed, still silently left. After hearing the news, Mike immediately rushed over. Fortunately, Carrie and Sugar were not in any life-threatening danger. This sudden incident left the female officer shocked. Everyone comforted her, telling her to go back to the police station first and let them handle things there. After investigation, it was discovered that these guys were the same thugs who often caused trouble in town and had previous criminal records. Their brotherhood was very deep. The rest of them, after discussing it, decided to avenge their brother. Their plan officially began. The next day, a thug suddenly appeared in front of the police station. The female officer noticed him and immediately grabbed her weapon and chased after him. But at this moment, he had already driven away on his motorcycle. When she tried to drive after him, she discovered that her tires had been punctured. Switching to another scene, a once-a-year festival had begun. Mike, along with several other officers, was on duty. On the way, they spotted the thug riding his motorcycle. They intended to carry out their revenge plan on these innocent people on the street. The scene instantly became chaotic. At this moment, Mike was like a headless turtle being toyed with by the thugs. Right at this moment, Rebecca seized the opportunity, took out a knife, and injured one of them. This action shocked the members of her family. This incident caused many injuries, and the property damage was also significant. At a critical time, the mayor held a meeting to reassure the people, but the citizens were furious. They felt their lives were threatened, so they demanded the mayor quickly cancel the festival. At this moment, Proctor appeared, listing the economic losses that everyone might suffer, and emphasized that he would protect everyone's safety. He wanted to use this method to regain the trust of the people. Everyone in the hall agreed with his approach, but Mike was extremely dissatisfied. He didn't want Proctor to interfere in crime and security management, and he wouldn't touch his slaughterhouse business. After the meeting ended, Rebecca's father brought her to the police because she had injured the thug with a knife. Because of the family's loyalty and honesty, they believed that she should be punished by the law. But her actions fell under self-defense. After hearing that, her father handed over the knife and turned to leave. Rebecca appeared in Mike's house once again. As soon as she entered, she took off her clothes, and what was bound to happen? On another side, the female officer, who had just washed her hair, was suddenly ambushed. She had just finished taking a shower when she was unexpectedly attacked. The sudden sound of gunfire scared her to death. When she grabbed her weapon and chased outside, the thugs had already driven away. And when she turned back, the whole house was on fire. At this moment, she didn't know what to do. She could only stand and watch her house burn down. When Mike arrived, he found out that today was her birthday. And now, she had nowhere to go. Mike told her to temporarily stay at the black officer's house, and then quickly drove away. When Mike returned to the bar, he found Proctor already waiting for him. He opened the trunk, and inside was a man who had been beaten beyond recognition. It turned out that Proctor's subordinates had caught one of the thugs and now wanted to hand him over to Mike to deal with. He also reminded Mike that if these thugs were arrested, they would still be released on bail. Moreover, they would still be free to commit crimes outside the law. I have no intention of letting them live. Mike went alone to the thug's lair. He wanted to get justice for his female colleague. The next day, Mike loaded the corpses onto a car and told Job to find a place to dispose of them. At this moment, the female officer also received a birthday present. Inside were the skull rings of the thugs. At this point, she seemed to have already guessed something. At the same time, FBI investigators arrived in town because Proctor was involved in many criminal cases, but in the end, there was not enough evidence to convict him. They thought they could rely on the witness to take down Proctor, but unexpectedly, he acted first and killed the witness. This made the investigator look down on and even doubt the ability of their colleagues. But luckily, there was still the video evidence, and his severed hand would testify. Afterward, the investigator went to the evidence room of the police department, but found that the phone and the hand had both vanished. Even the evidence custodian was stunned and didn't understand what had happened. It was simply inexplicable how the evidence could disappear so strangely. The investigator quickly reported this incident to his superiors and decided to stay there to continue the investigation. At this moment, a long-distance bus stopped in town, and a sloppily dressed man stepped off the bus. And Mike's appearance surprised him greatly. Damn it, it's like seeing a ghost. This can't be happening. Mike was enjoying himself when suddenly the deputy called because they had caught a special criminal. Moreover, he wanted to talk to Mike. Afterward, Mike went to the police station, but when he saw the prisoner, he was extremely surprised. This was his prison mate. Switching the scene to 15 years ago, Mike went to prison for stealing diamonds and, thanks to connections, found him, forcing him to reveal the whereabouts of Carrie and the diamonds. Mike said, I don't know where she is. But the other guy didn't seem to believe him. You just wait, you're gonna get tortured slowly. You'll get a taste of what pain and despair feel like. I guarantee I'll make your life a living hell. And just like that, every day Mike got brutally beaten by the other inmates, living a life worse than hell. Only one man volunteered to help him, even taking care of him kindly when he was injured. Because of his help, Mike got him released and treated him to a huge feast. He even took out a wad of cash and gave it to him. Mike helped him find a place to start his life over. Moreover, he told him never to come back here. But the next day, that man appeared at the police station again. It turned out that he hadn't left town at all. Not only did he spend all the money on gambling, but he also got into a fight at the casino. After that, the man was just like that, arrested and brought back to the station. With no other choice, Mike could only take him to the bar. The man had no intention of leaving this place because he knew Mike's true identity. So he took this opportunity to threaten Mike, demanding a large sum of money to keep quiet. This is my demand, officer. Mike was also very clear that this kind of person would stop at nothing for money. In order not to reveal his identity, he had no choice but to eliminate the root of the problem. In the end, he could only sink the secret to the bottom of the lake. In another scene, Carrie is also secretly taking action. I prepared everything. I'll deliver him to you soon. The woman sat down, wanting to reward her husband, but her husband rejected her due to pressure. Don't be like that. She didn't understand what was on her husband's mind. She only heard him say, "It's okay, I'm just not in the mood." At this moment in the bar, Mike and his friends were plotting their actions. Their target was a casino in town. But at this time, Carrie called, saying that she had found a buyer for the diamonds and wanted him to go with her. But Job felt suspicious because he knew that no one would dare to buy those diamonds. Once those diamonds entered the market, Rabbit would be able to find out their whereabouts. So he thought this matter wouldn't be that simple. But Mike still chose to trust Carrie. A lovesick fool, truly stupid. After that, Mike went to Carrie's place. The two of them prepared to drive to the transaction location. Suddenly, at this moment, Carrie stabbed him. After that, Mike immediately became dazed and fell. When he woke up, he found himself tied to the bed by Carrie. It turned out that she had made a deal with Rabbit, deciding to use Mike in exchange for her family's safety. She locked Mike in the hotel and then turned to leave. On the other hand, the black police officer was happily shopping at the supermarket. At this moment, a masked man suddenly rushed in. "Freeze! Hands up!" The police tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't listen. "Shut up, you bastard! Hands up, damn it!" The criminal shot and killed the supermarket owner, and then pointed the gun at him. At this moment, he could only close his eyes and pray. But when he opened his eyes again, the criminal was gone. He quickly ran outside and called for backup. After a chase, the two criminals ran into a school, taking a female teacher hostage. The two of them quickly hid in the gym, taking all the students inside as hostages. Outside, the place was already surrounded by police, and reporters had also arrived. But the police didn't have a safe rescue plan yet, and Mike, locked up on this side, was also trying his best to escape. Just at this moment, the news on TV reported the hostage situation in a school, and one of the hostages was Carrie's daughter. At this moment, the danger was getting closer and closer to him because Rabbit had led his subordinates to chase after him. The assassins pushed the door open and rushed in, but it was one step too late. Mike had already escaped. It turned out that in the nick of time, Job appeared and rescued Mike. In the school, at this moment, the criminals could no longer control the situation. The students who were taken as hostages suddenly started to fight back. Some escaped, while others were chased and captured again. At this moment, Mike had also arrived at the scene. Carrie saw him and couldn't believe it. She didn't expect Mike to be able to escape. But at this moment, Mike didn't pay much attention to that. He just wanted to quickly catch the criminals. He then went into the gym alone. Mike carefully approached the criminal, but his spirit at this moment had become extremely agitated. Mike released all the hostages inside, but only Carrie's daughter was still being held by another criminal. Seeing his accomplice shot dead, his mood could no longer be calm. "I'm gonna blow this chick's brains out." Mike lost his cool, but the others had to talk him down. "Put the gun down now. Step back, drop the weapon." At this point, Mike signaled to Carrie's daughter. She immediately got the message and ducked down. In the end, Mike rescued all the hostages, and the news was constantly reporting on him. But this caused his whereabouts to be exposed because all the information on TV was seen by Rabbit. After returning home, he discovered Carrie was already waiting for him there. Then, Mike pointed his gun at Carrie, but unexpectedly, she still believed that Mike wouldn't betray her. She was also very remorseful for what she had done, but in the end, Mike still chose to forgive her. The two former lovers spent a passionate night together. After everything had passed, Carrie finally revealed the truth. It turned out that Dava was Mike's biological daughter. After learning this news, Mike wanted to take her and their daughter and run away. But Carrie didn't want to leave her family, so she decided to return to her current husband. So the two of them fought and went their separate ways. When Carrie was about to leave, Rabbit's subordinate found this place and then locked her in the trunk of the car. But when he was about to leave, the car window was smashed and Mike pointed a gun at him. After that, the two took the assassin home. Mike knew that their whereabouts had been exposed. At this time, they couldn't just sit and wait for death, so he decided to go to Rabbit's lair in New York. Only by killing him could they ensure Carrie's safety. At this time, Rebecca came to the door. She wanted to have some fun with Mike, but how could he be in the mood at this moment? So he decided to drive her home first. It turned out that she had been kicked out of the house just because her father found out about her personal belongings, so she was kicked out by her father. The two passionately exchanged a kiss, and then Rebecca ran out of the car. And all of this was seen by Proctor's subordinates. On this side, the assassin had already gotten out of the handcuffs, and the two began a life-or-death fight. Although Carrie had been secretly training for the past few years, how could her physical strength compare to that of a big man? In the end, the assassin stabbed Carrie in the chest with a sharp object. After a fierce fight, the assassin finally dies at Carrie's hands. When Mike arrived, Carrie was already lying in a pool of blood, gasping for air. He then quickly took Carrie to the hospital for emergency treatment. And at this moment, her husband, who received the news, also rushed over. The husband lost his composure and questioned Mike about what exactly had happened. Because Carrie didn't come home last night, he began to suspect the relationship between the two. Fortunately, Carrie's life was not in danger. At this moment, Rebecca had been taken to her Uncle Proctor's house, but because he learned about her and Mike from his subordinate, he was furious. He ordered Rebecca not to go back to Mike again. At the same time, Rabbit had investigated the whereabouts of the two. He had been searching for 15 years and finally found out the whereabouts of Mike and Carrie. So he gathered all his subordinates, determined to chase them down and kill them. In another scene, Proctor takes Rebecca to a construction site. This was a casino being built that Proctor invested in and was managed by the chief. But because the chief passed away due to illness, the family business was taken over by his son, but he was planning to kick Proctor out and didn't want him to continue participating in the project. But Proctor had already prepared. He then took out a whistle. This was a whistle of power. After the sound rang out, all the workers stopped what they were doing and left the construction site together. At this time, Mike was still discussing strategy with everyone because he knew that Rabbit would be here soon. "So, what are you going to do?" "Nothing," Mike continued. "You too. Stay away from me." Sugar asked, "What about you?" Mike, with a firm voice, said, "I'm going to deal with him. I've always wanted to kill him." After waking up, Carrie wanted to leave the hospital immediately because she knew Rabbit was coming here soon. "They're going to kill my whole family." So they had to immediately take their children and leave this place. After the two returned home, she told her husband to pick up Deva, and she drove to the school to pick up her son. But when she arrived at the school, she found that there wasn't a single person in the classroom. Through the glass door, she saw her son playing on the playground. But just a second later, Rabbit appeared on the sports field. Seeing this scene, Carrie didn't think much and ran straight down to the field. But she was one step too late. Her son had disappeared. Afterward, Carrie went to the police station. Because of the seriousness of this kidnapping case, investigators also joined the investigation. At this critical moment, Mike went to Proctor because Rabbit would come looking for him. So he hoped Proctor could help him. But he angrily hit Mike because he had disgraced his niece. So he had to give Mike a beating. Then the two of them started fighting fiercely. After the fight, both of them were exhausted. Finally, they sat down and talked calmly. Mike gave a reason why Proctor had to help him. "Why?" "Because I'll owe you my life." Then Mike turned around and went back to the police station. Unexpectedly, Rabbit was already waiting for him there. But Mike couldn't shoot him because Carrie's son was in his hands. And Rabbit came here just to see him one last time. A group of assassins frantically fired into the room. Mike at this moment was like a lamb in a sea of fire. At this time, a gun was pointed directly at Mike's face. But what surprised him was that Proctor had dealt with all the assassins outside. In the end, he left a sentence and calmly said, "You owe me a life." The next day, when everyone arrived at the police station, they were shocked. They faced a scene of utter devastation. The scene only left behind the corpses of the assassins and a few guns. The investigator also began to doubt Mike's true identity. Moreover, he was immediately removed from his position. Mike immediately took off his police badge and handed it to the deputy, then turned and left. On the other side, Job and Sugar had also started to take action, deciding to use the surveillance system to find Rabbit's location. But it was really like looking for a needle in a haystack. Moreover, just relying on the abilities of the two of them was not a match for him. At this moment, Carrie appeared. At the same time, Mike made an important decision. He went alone to find Rabbit, deciding to use his life to exchange for Carrie's son, ending this feud. At this moment, Job had also found out Rabbit's whereabouts. But suddenly Carrie's husband came here, saying that their son had returned home safely, meaning that Mike was now in danger. The situation was urgent. Everyone decided to quickly go rescue Mike, but before they could go far, they were stopped by the police. The deputy, after learning that Mike was in danger, immediately made a decision. I don't care who they are. I can't let them run wild and cause trouble here like this. Mike was tied to a chair by them, subjected to torture worse than death. At this moment, the rescue team for Mike was also ready to take action. After that, the group sneaked into their lair. The two sides engaged in an extremely fierce battle. Facing Rabbit's power, the deputy was unfortunately shot and fell. Carrie luckily appeared, resolving everything in the nick of time. Because he was wearing a bulletproof vest, the deputy was temporarily out of danger. At this moment, a figure appeared behind the iron gate. After hearing the commotion outside, Rabbit immediately used a knife to kill Mike, but Carrie arrived just in time. His subordinates were all killed. Carrie also didn't hesitate to shoot him dead. Finally, Mike was rescued. Corpses were lying all over the scene. The scene in front of him shocked the investigator. At the scene, only a picture was left, and Rabbit's body was nowhere to be found. At this moment, the mayor was alone at the construction site. It turned out that he had always wanted to participate in the casino investment, so he wanted to join forces with the chief's son to deal with Proctor. But unexpectedly, the construction site was halted midway. At the same time, Proctor also brought Rebecca to the construction site because the chief's son had always excluded him. So he wanted to teach him a lesson. He then took out his phone and handed it to Rebecca to call him. In another scene, the police accidentally discovered a huge secret. 3 skeletons in the forest became an inexplicable mystery. The police discovered 3 decomposed bodies in the forest, but they didn't expect that these 3 bodies were police officer Lucas Hood and 2 of Proctor's subordinates who were killed a year ago. And at this moment, Mike's identity could be exposed at any time. Carrie, to save him, also had her true identity revealed. Not only being abandoned by her husband, but also facing the possibility of going to prison at any time. To prevent Mike's identity from being exposed, Sugar and Job sneaked into the morgue and stole the police officer's body. Then the 2 of them buried it in another place. The next day, federal investigator Jim specifically came to town and decided to open an interrogation there. Because Rabbit's subordinates attacked the police station, it was clear that they came for Mike. But Mike still insisted that he didn't know Rabbit and didn't understand why they wanted to kill him. Through interrogation, the investigator learned that Carrie was Rabbit's adopted daughter and that she was also a former member of the Master Rabbit organization. Carrie said that because of past grudges, she wanted to eliminate them to silence them, so she led the police to fight them. In the end, she even personally shot and killed Rabbit. But now, without a body, Carrie was still sure that he was dead, but the investigator didn't think so. After the interrogation, he didn't punish Mike. Moreover, he even restored his police identity. As for Carrie, he didn't have the authority to decide, so he could only hand it over to the town police department to handle. However, someone was not satisfied with his handling of this outcome. He believed that his punishment was too lenient, so the 2 of them argued. He said that he had cancer and didn't have much time left, so he wanted to catch the big fish, to personally deal with Rabbit. It turned out that he wanted to use Mike and Carrie as bait, so he restored Mike's police identity. As for Carrie, after being kicked out by her husband, she could only rent a hotel room by herself. The next day, the secret plot began. The group returned to being ordinary people. Their target this time was his armored truck. Although they hadn't worked together for many years, they still worked very well together. Finally, they transferred all the goods from the armored truck. They just finished robbing the goods from that truck and were about to leave when a motorcycle came out of nowhere chasing them. Get down quickly. Who the hell is that? How should I? No! Aren't you going to shoot back? Both sides opened fire. Unfortunately, their tires got shot and the vehicle lost control, skidding off the road. After the assassin got off his bike, they continued the fierce fight. While everyone was still panicking, a white car suddenly came speeding up. While he wasn't paying attention, they quickly got in the car and took off. Luckily, Sugar showed up just in time and saved them. After everyone left, the hitman took off his helmet and made a phone call. This woman's name is Nola, the younger sister of the chief of the Gino family. After escaping, They returned to the bar. They couldn't believe that after planning for so long, they only ended up with $10,000. They had no idea who that hitman was, and they even felt like someone was always watching them. They started arguing like that, and then broke up unhappily. Afterward, the cops showed up at the crime scene. The chief suspected Proctor was behind it all because, not long ago, Proctor also blew up his casino that was under construction but only got fined a small amount of money. So, the Gino family held a meeting. Not only was a new construction site destroyed, but the goods were also completely stolen. All the blame was put on the chief. Everyone thought the problem was his management style, demanding he resolve this issue. So that night, Nola suddenly appeared at the bar and even took the initiative to ask to see Mike's house. The two quickly developed feelings for each other, and then released themselves upstairs. The next day, the judge interrogated Carrie. After all, just using a gun would result in 30 days in jail. But considering that Carrie still had to take care of her 2 children, she was given 3 days to arrange for them. Unexpectedly, her husband, a police officer, personally sent his wife to prison. This made Mike extremely dissatisfied, and he taught him a lesson. Meanwhile, Proctor got another call from the chief. "Stay away from my casino." "What are you talking about? I don't understand." The chief continued with a warning tone. "All right, I'll show you what's what." The chief believed everything was Proctor's doing, so he decided to get revenge. That night, Rebecca went to Mike's place, but found he wasn't home. As she was leaving, she was stopped by some soldiers outside the bar. "Wait, don't be in such a hurry, sweetheart." Then they pushed her down into a car, intending to do something awful. But at this moment, a dark figure appeared with top-notch skills and beat them all to a pulp. Luckily, Nola showed up just in time to save them, but just as Rebecca was about to thank her, she drugged her and Rebecca passed out. Then, she took Rebecca back to the chief's place because Proctor adores this niece of his, so the two planned to kidnap Rebecca. Meanwhile, Proctor went to Mike's house looking for his niece because she had been gone all night and hadn't come home. He assumed they were together, but Mike said he hadn't seen Rebecca. Just then, the chief called. "You hear that? Bring the money to get her back, and I'll release the girl. I didn't rob your truck." Turns out the chief mistakenly thought Proctor was behind the truck robbery, which made him furious. After hanging up, he hoped Mike would help him get Rebecca back. But because the Gino family wasn't in his jurisdiction, Mike was in a real bind. "I told you before, you owe me one. Time to pay up." To repay Proctor's trust, Mike had no choice but to go to the chief's casino alone, while Job easily hacked into the security system. With their teamwork, Mike successfully broke in. After dealing with the guards outside, he finally found the room where Rebecca was being held. Mike couldn't believe Nola used her looks to get close to him. Because this was Gino's territory, Mike had no authority to arrest them. He just hoped the chief would release Rebecca. After that, they could pretend this whole thing never happened. The chief didn't want to make a big deal out of it either, so he finally handed Rebecca over. Then, Rebecca was brought back home safely, as if this favor had been repaid. That night, the chief was getting cozy with his lover when Proctor barged in. He pointed a gun at the chief, while his men dumped all the carcasses of the cattle he'd slaughtered into the bathtub. "You so much as touch my niece again, and I'll have you dead like these cattle, and your whole family too." The next day, Mike drove Carrie to jail, specifically warning her not to pay attention to anyone else. Just like that, Carrie began her 30-day stint behind bars. Meanwhile, because her house had been burned down by those thugs, Mike temporarily set up the female officer in this mobile home. That night, right after she'd finished showering, she felt like something was off. When she opened the kitchen door, she found her ex-husband standing there. Because her ex was a violent drunk, that's why she'd chosen to divorce him. But he tracked her down here to harass her. On another front, her co-worker felt something was amiss. Officer Anna should have arrived by now, but there was still no sign of her. So, Mike drove over to Anna's place. She was just standing there, dazed, all alone in her house. Seeing the wound on her hand, Mike's heart ached. He said, "Tell me where he is. He's at the motel." Mike then turned to leave, ready to teach him a lesson. Just then, there was a knock at the door. He opened it and, surprise, it was a female cop. She had gotten there before Mike. Finally, She let out all the rage she'd been holding inside. By the time Mike got there, the guy had already been beaten unconscious. She was worried it would affect her job, but Mike said he'd take care of it for her. Because Mike had helped her out time and time again, she finally couldn't hold back anymore, and then she leaned in and kissed him. The cops found a woman's body in an empty lot. After investigating, they learned her name was Lana, a member of the Gino family. Turns out, yesterday Lana and her boyfriend came here to hang out and didn't go home, even by nightfall, which ultimately led to this tragedy. The guy, Roman, is the son of the farm owner. When his son, Mike, didn't come home, the worried father went out looking and discovered the girl's body at this location. But there was no sign of Roman. Because of the heavy rain last night, any evidence at the scene had been washed away, leaving no trace. After learning about the dead girl's relationship with Roman, the two sides started to clash. The Gino family believed that Roman killed their daughter and demanded the farm owner hand him over. Luckily, Mike got there just in time to prevent things from escalating. After Rebecca heard the news, she rushed to the police station. Because Roman is her brother, she insisted he wouldn't kill anyone and hoped Mike could uncover the truth. After investigating, they found out the girl used to have a boyfriend. But even after they broke up, the ex kept sending her threatening messages. What's important is that the ex's brother is Chayton, and he's not your average thug. They're very particular about the Gino family, and they don't allow anyone to associate with them. If anyone's caught doing so, the consequences are unimaginable. So everyone's thinking this whole thing is connected to the bad blood between the two families. The tricky part is that they don't have any jurisdiction over the Gino family, but Mike wasn't overthinking it. He immediately drove over to the Gino family's territory. The people there basically ignored the cops and just went inside. That's when Mike snuck in through the back door. "Hi, son of a bitch. How did Mike get in here?" Mike explained, "I don't want any trouble." The other guy arrogantly said, "You're not making trouble, but you're in trouble." Then Chayton charged in. Mike was no match for him and was immediately lifted up and slammed to the ground. Just then, the guys outside smashed the windows and rushed in, and the henchmen were all subdued. Meanwhile, Chayton tauntingly cut Mike's stomach with a knife. During the fight, Mike got kicked straight out. That's when the deputy unexpectedly burst in. It took several of them, all fighting at once, to finally restrain him. They hauled him back to the station, but no matter how much they questioned him, he wouldn't reveal a single thing about himself. Later, a strange young guy came to the police station looking for Mike. "You're not my father. I don't think I can introduce myself. I'm Jason Hood." At the farm, a group of aggressive people suddenly showed up. They were from the Gino family. They were there to talk about the dead girl. The farm hands were spooked too, backing away, but not Proctor. This time he wasn't afraid and walked right over. Proctor warned them, "You've got 30 minutes. Get out of here now." But the guy was stubborn. "Not so fast. We want to use this stick to smack your butt. Let's see if you like it." Next thing you know, the big mouth who was just talking tough was getting pummeled, totally unable to fight back. After that, he handed the stick over to his henchmen to continue dealing with them. Meanwhile, Rebecca went to her friend, hoping to find out where her brother was. Her friend told Rebecca to wait for her at the small bridge in the woods. Rebecca did as she was told and went there, but there was no sign of the other girl. Just then, a shadowy figure rushed out and grabbed her. Rebecca struggled free and took off running. As she was about to call for help, the guy in black came at her again. Luckily, she grabbed a rock and quickly smashed him hard on the head. Then she managed to escape. Just then, she got lucky and ran into Mike, who was on duty. She told Mike about the guy in black chasing her in the woods. He grabbed his weapon and rushed into the forest to investigate. The guy in black suddenly appeared from behind. He took the chance to whack Mike with a branch, knocking him down. Even though Mike shot him, the guy still managed to get away. Later, Mike headed out, ready to continue the hunt for the killer, but the female officer stopped him. She said there had been a string of murders these past few days. Mike was completely exhausted. After that, she took him back to her place. Once he was rested up, Mike was about to head out, but she stopped him again, asking him to stay. This wasn't a good look. The next day, Mike took Hood's son to the bar and then told him the whole story. After learning the truth, The kid wasn't even sad. What's more, he promised he wouldn't reveal Mike's true identity. But he had one request. He wanted Mike to help him switch identities. After that, he would find a place to start a new life. Mike agreed to his terms without any hesitation. Afterward, Mike went to see Roman's friend, hoping to get some info about where Roman might be. He was shocked to find out that Roman had a super messed up teacher who was known for beating them. And because Rebecca broke some of the family's rules, this guy took out his anger on Roman. Rebecca goes to see her friend again. The friend tells Rebecca that Roman's teacher is a total creep and seriously hates him. So there's a good chance this whole thing has to do with the teacher. Meanwhile, Mike has tracked down the teacher's place just to have a little chat. At first, Mike doesn't notice anything weird. But when the teacher gets up to pour some water, a wound on his leg catches Mike's eye. "Your leg is injured." The other guy quickly explains it's just an old wound from a horse kick. Mike asks, then why is it still bleeding? This is an incredibly ruthless and twisted killer. Just as Mike is about to capture him, the killer fights back fiercely. While the two are fighting, Rebecca suddenly appears, picks up a hammer on the ground, and rushes in. Even after being subdued by Mike, he still doesn't say a word about Roman's whereabouts. Suddenly, Proctor shows up. He says that forcing it like this isn't the way to go, because he believes what he's doing is righteous. So, dealing with this kind of person requires experience. Proctor grabs a tool from the table, then goes over and pries the guy's mouth open. All you can hear now are agonizing screams. Not long after, Proctor walks out of the room. After some interrogation, it turns out Roman is locked up in an abandoned warehouse. Then everyone immediately rushes over there to rescue Roman. Because he witnessed his girlfriend's death firsthand, his mental state is now severely affected. His parents rushed over after hearing the news. But even when faced with the daughter he had kicked out of the house, the father still didn't offer a single word of thanks. The killer was finally brought to justice, and Chayton, who was connected to the case, was about to be transported to the police department. The whole process was escorted by a black male officer and a female officer. But then, something unexpected happens. He starts resisting like crazy, making the steering wheel swirl. By the time Chayton's men arrive, it's already dark, and the female officer wakes up from being unconscious. You go back and tell the sheriff we'll meet again soon. After that, he just gets up and casually walks away from the scene. In another scene, Proctor goes to see the chief and gives him a gift. It's the teeth of the guy who murdered the chief's daughter. For Proctor, this is a total win-win. He not only saved his nephew, but also helped the chief catch his daughter's killer. Proctor wants to use this to smooth things over between them. The chief decides to temporarily let go of the bad blood between them. He thinks everything's settled. But this move doesn't sit well with Nola because she doesn't want anything to do with Proctor. The two siblings end up arguing about it. Nola feels like she never really belonged here, and in the end, she chooses to leave. Nola takes an axe to the police station and goes straight for the killer, who's still behind bars. Carrie walks out of jail, finally free again, but the person waiting for her isn't her husband or kids. It's a guy who's both a stranger and familiar. Because it was Mike's appearance that led to Carrie being in a situation where she had a home but couldn't go back to it. So, he took her to a place. It's a house he saved up and worked hard to buy. He wants to give her a fresh start. The two of them sat there, happily chatting away. He'd originally stayed just to protect Carrie, but he never thought he'd end up dragging her into so much trouble, even making her lose her family. Even though Mike couldn't let go of that 15-year relationship, it seemed like he finally understood things now. The best thing he could do for her was to leave. And just like that, they spent one passionate night together. The next morning, Mike wakes up and immediately senses something's off. His sixth sense tells him to go check things out. He does find someone tailing him, but it turns out to be Investigator Jim. It turns out he's been secretly following the two of them all along, just so he can catch Rabbit himself. Years ago, while looking for evidence of Rabbit's crimes, his whole family was tragically killed by Rabbit. So, for over 10 years, he hasn't given up because he wants to be the one to take Rabbit down. But what he didn't expect is that Jim already discovered his true identity a long time ago. And he knows everything, too. From the diamond heist 15 years ago, to the arrest and interrogation, and even the impersonation of Lucas Hood. But he hasn't revealed any of this because Rabbit is his ultimate target. So, He wants the two of them to team up with him to take down Rabbit. But then, something unexpected happens. Gunshots suddenly ring out, throwing them into a panic, and Jim is tragically shot and killed after a fierce attack. The two of them finally emerge from the house and slowly approach the shooter. In the end, the two of them manage to take him out. The result shocks them both. The shooter turns out to be someone sent by Rabbit. They thought they could start a new life, but it turns out he has no intention of letting them go. Their dream is shattered once again, and they have no choice but to drive away. After returning to the bar, Job dumps the diamonds on the table, thinking they could sell them for a good price. But it turns out the diamonds are all fakes. It turns out that everything, the whole heist 15 years ago, was all a setup planned by Rabbit. Job speculates. Rabbit's just playing a game. He's using you as a toy. You went to jail for 15 years just for stealing a bunch of glass. The guy stared at the car in front of him and even licked the roof of it. Talk about a total weirdo. What's even crazier is that he rips off the car's side mirror, and right then, the owner of the car shows up. Just a moment later, the other guys are all knocked out on the ground. Then, the man drives the car to the town of Banshee. Meanwhile, Mike has finished forging the ID for Hood's son. He takes the ID and hands it to him. Suddenly, a man walks into the bar. "Sorry, sir, I'm not serving today." The guy ignores him and walks straight up to the young man. Mike can tell right away that this guy is bad news, and he doesn't want a repeat of last year's tragedy. One of the guys asks, "Does your bar have any rules about guns?" Sugar calmly replies, "Of course, you can't bring guns inside." As soon as he finishes, the guy suddenly opens fire, forcing a shootout between the two sides. The other man quickly uses the chance to escape. Mike immediately grabs a gun and chases after him, but he's one step too late. Mike takes Jason upstairs and demands to know what happened. He finally admits that he stole money from some gangsters, and that's why they're after him. Then Jason leads Mike back to a hotel and pulls a bag of money out of the toilet tank. The kid's scared out of his mind, so Mike decides he's going to help him sort this out. Right after, Mike finds Carl sitting on the street. He figures Carl is just a hired gun, taking money to do someone else's dirty work. The two of them talk it over, and finally, Mike agrees to return the money the young guy stole to Carl, plus an extra $50,000 to get him to spill the beans. Not wanting either side to lose out, Carl eventually accepts the offer. Mike digs out all his savings, takes the money to the agreed-upon location, and hands it over to Colonel. His only condition is that Carl lets the young guy go and takes the money, leaves town immediately. But then, the unexpected happened. Surprise, huh? Put your pants on, little buddy. At the same time, Mike was telling Sugar the whole story. Sugar figured that the killer wouldn't just give up like that. What Sugar said suddenly made things click for Mike, and he bolted out of the bar. In the next scene, Mike's standing on the highway, blocking a red supercar. Carl gets out and takes off his jacket. The two of them then jump into a fight to the death. While they're going at it, a police car comes out of nowhere and slams right into Colonel. He's killed instantly. Mike and Jason head back to the hotel together. Mike tells him to take the money and get out of town and never come back. Jason goes to the bar to say goodbye to Sugar, but right then, he spots Rebecca drinking. He ignores Sugar's advice and goes over to her, forcing Rebecca back to the hotel with him, intending to do something bad. But then, something unexpected happens. Turns out, Proctor has sent his men here. They rescue Rebecca and take her to a slaughterhouse. The scene before her terrifies Rebecca. The guy who was just alive a moment ago has now been ground into mincemeat. On the other side of town, Mike arrives at the hotel to take Jason away, but the room is ice cold and all the money is still there. This makes Mike suspicious. Mike hears from Sugar that Jason met Rebecca last night, and they left together. Mike is shocked, and a bad feeling starts to creep in. Mike immediately heads to Proctor's mansion. Rebecca is there, too. He asks her a few questions and finds out that Jason and Proctor were indeed together yesterday, but he doesn't have enough evidence to pin anything on him. It dawns on Mike that Proctor has already gotten rid of Jason. Luckily, Mike manages to keep it together. He decides he needs to find another way to put Proctor behind bars. So, that very night, Mike leads the police to Proctor's club and has all the strippers in the club arrested. By the time Proctor arrives, it's too late. The club has been shut down. Even though the police don't have a warrant, they've already taken all the dancers. Proctor is furious. You haven't even seen a warrant from the police, and you let them in here, trashing my club? But his goons don't even know what a warrant is. Proctor is losing it. I pay you guys to make sure my club runs smoothly, you understand? Clean this mess up. We need to be back in business before noon tomorrow. Meanwhile, Mike is interrogating the stripper from the club who got arrested, trying to get some dirt on Proctor's crimes from her. Under Mike's questioning, she finally spills some clues. She says Proctor has his meth lab, but she doesn't know where it is. She only knows a bald guy who drives for Proctor and handles the drug deals and transport to other cities. After that, Mike leads the police to the bald guy's place. A few thugs see them, but they're not scared at all. They even come out and start provoking them. What the hell are you doing? Try and move, I dare you. The two sides start brawling, and a few of the thugs get knocked to the ground. But the bald guy uses his chance to make a run for it, and Mike immediately chases after him. The criminal is eventually caught by the police, but he's still playing dumb. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, buddy, it's true that some people don't fear until they see the coffin. Under Mike's intense pressure, the bald guy finally reveals the address of Proctor's meth lab. Through an investigation, Mike learns that the factory is just an empty shell company with no real connection to Proctor. Even if they raid the whole place, they won't find any solid evidence to arrest Proctor. But at this point, Mike seems to have his plan. That night, everyone heads to Proctor's meth lab and intercepts the truck transporting his drugs. After taking down the driver, a few of them drive the truck like maniacs. The truck smashes through the gate and straight into the warehouse. Job takes some explosives and plants them all over the warehouse, ready to blow the place sky high. Then they all escape outside, and Job takes out his phone, ready to press the detonator. There's a huge boom, and the factory goes up in flames. After blowing up the place, Mike's crew struts away. When Proctor finds out, he's livid. Not only did he lose a massive amount of drugs at the factory, but there was also an accident at the slaughterhouse. Because the electrical system was illegally hacked, it caused a power outage, and most of the meat stored in the slaughterhouse has rotted. After that, Proctor goes to the bar alone. He doesn't understand why Mike is always trying to go against him, but he's not scared because Mike doesn't have any evidence to convict him. To gather enough evidence, Mike and Anna go back to the stripper's house again. Because she often goes to Proctor's mansion to serve him, Mike figures she must know something. Under his questioning, she finally reveals a clue. She says she once saw someone pushing a refrigerator into the basement under the mansion, but as for what was in the fridge, she has no idea. Mike immediately heads to Proctor's mansion, and the police, having obtained a search warrant, quickly follow to search the mansion. Sure enough, they discover a secret basement in Proctor's mansion. Inside the basement is a large number of weapons, along with evidence proving Proctor's collusion with the chief. The evidence is crystal clear, and this time Proctor has no way out. Mike escorts Proctor and the evidence to the police station. Meanwhile, the wife of Officer Emmett is targeted by gangsters for revenge. She's walking down the street when she's suddenly stopped by several men. Can I ask you something? When did you betray the white race? The bald guy starts insulting her black husband, then reaches out and touches her belly. The bald guy knocks the pregnant woman to the ground, and then kicks her in the stomach a few times. After that, they all speed away in a car. Luckily, a passerby calls for an ambulance in time to take her to the hospital. By now, her husband has also arrived at the hospital. She describes to her husband what the gangster looked like. Her husband immediately figures out who it is. The ones who attacked her were Proctor's men. Emmett is determined to get revenge for his wife, but his colleagues try to stop him. They tell him to stay at the hospital and take care of his wife. They'll handle the rest. At this point, his wife is no longer in danger, but they couldn't save the baby. That night, Mike comes to the hospital to check in and also tells Emmett some good news. The gangsters have been arrested and are in custody. Hearing the news, Emmett immediately heads to the jail, bringing a weapon with him into the cell. If you guys can beat me, I'll let you go. After knocking down two of the guys, Emmett leaves the cell, grabs a new weapon, and then opens the cell door again. As a husband, Emmett ultimately chose this way to protect his wife. When everyone arrives, The gangsters are barely clinging to life and are immediately taken to the hospital for treatment. Mike understands how Emmett feels right now. To protect his wife, he had no other choice. After that, Emmett also voluntarily handed over his police badge, paying a heavy price. Meanwhile, Proctor has hired a lawyer and is trying every way to get bail. The police have caught Proctor's driver. To prevent him from testifying for the police, Proctor immediately orders Burton to take care of him quickly and quietly. At this moment, Proctor remembers a woman. Because she frequently came to the mansion to provide services, she must be the one who discovered the secret basement under the mansion. Right after, Burton arrives at the hospital room where the driver is lying and silences him forever. Afterward, Burton goes to the club, but the woman is nowhere to be found. Turns out, it's because of Rebecca's kindness. She discovered the secret and warned her in advance, telling her to leave town. On another front, Job goes to New York alone and finds Rabbit in a certain church. But just as he's about to make his move, a voice rings out. "Where are you from, kid?" The pastor doesn't want to waste any more time with him, either. He orders his henchmen to teach him a lesson. "All right, you can put the knife down now." In this critical moment, Job decides he's gonna take out Rabbit right then and there. Not want to get caught, Job decides to escape from the church first. But right then, not paying attention, he gets hit by a car. Meanwhile, just as Mike is about to enjoy some time with his girlfriend Anna, he gets a call from Job. "You better get to New York quick. I'm in deep trouble. Room 307, New York Central Hospital. They're coming for me." After hanging up, Mike doesn't even have time to explain to Anna and immediately goes to Carrie's house to tell her the news. After hearing that Job has found Rabbit, Carrie decides she's going to New York right away. But this time, her husband is strongly against it. He pulls out a pistol from his pocket and points it at Mike. In this tense moment, Carrie finally tells her husband the truth. He's Dava's real father. "I have to kill Rabbit, even if it kills me." After that, the two of them get ready to head to New York. Meanwhile, two assassins have arrived at the hospital where Job is staying. Coincidentally, they run into Carrie. When Carrie sees a tattoo on their necks, a bullet ricochets, but luckily Carrie dodges it in time. At the same time, when Mike gets to the hospital room to get Job, the assassin suddenly appears. After a struggle, Mike manages to finish him off. On another side of things, a hospital security guard hears the gunshots and rushes over, but is immediately taken out by the assassins. They also take a nurse hostage. Just in time, Carrie rescues her. Mike and Carrie take Job back to a hotel and start planning how to deal with Rabbit. But because they came in such a hurry, Mike and Carrie only brought a few guns. Plus, Job is seriously injured right now. Just then, Job suddenly thinks of someone. He can help us. Mike tries to go in and find the person, but he's stopped by the guy. "Get the hell out of here. Boys, follow me." Beat him up. Try moving again. They immediately pull out their guns and force the two of them inside. But when their leader sees Mike, he's overjoyed. Turns out, Mike is an old friend of his. He's a local arms dealer here. And the reason Mike came here this time is precisely for weapons. Because Mike once saved his life. He agrees to help without saying much, wanting to repay Mike for his kindness. The two of them carry the weapons back to the hotel, ready to go find Rabbit and settle the score. Because Job is injured, Mike doesn't let him join this operation. Before the two of them leave, Job stops them. "Wait a minute. How will I know if you two are alive or dead?" Mike leaves his final words. "If I don't return by tomorrow morning, it means I'm dead." The two of them find the church where Rabbit is staying and take out a few of the goons guarding it. Easy as pie. But when they enter the church, they realize they've walked into a trap. Turns out Rabbit figured out their plan long ago and had people lying in wait here. Mike signals to Carrie, "Ready? Then run," under the heavy fire from the enemy. The two of them are almost out of hope, and they're both out of ammo. The nightmare scene from 15 years ago seems to flash through Mike's mind again. Maybe the only thing he can do now is protect Carrie and keep her safe. So, he's making the same decision again, just like 15 years ago. Carrie panics and asks, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" Mike instructs her carefully, "I'm gonna draw their attention. As soon as I stand up, you run. Got it? I'll catch up to you. I'll be right behind you." Then, Mike grabs a dagger and charges for it. But something unexpected happens. Job and his crew suddenly show up, taking out the gang of thugs. The two of them find Rabbit sitting in the churchyard. The 15-year-old grudge is finally coming to an end, but Carrie doesn't pull the trigger. Instead, she hands him the gun, telling him to finish himself off. Go die. The other man seems to accept his fate. Alright, after settling the 15-year-old grudge, Carrie returns home, and Mike goes back to his girlfriend Anna. Meanwhile, Deputy Emmett has taken his wife to another city, ready to start a new life. But that day, the unexpected happened. A car comes out of nowhere, and without a word, they open fire, taking out Emmett and his wife. At the same time, Rebecca goes to the chief, offering herself to him. But right after, Rebecca uses a knife in her hand to swiftly take out the chief. Turns out, everything she did was for Proctor. After dealing with the chief, Proctor is safely released and returns to his mansion. Finally, Proctor uses a special method to reward this beauty. Meanwhile, Chayton gets a phone call. Seeing his grim expression, his henchman asks, "How is it?" He replies, "The chief's done for. Time to get a coffin." The henchman doesn't understand what he means, and then Chayton says it's time to go home. Under the clear moonlit night, a black car suddenly stops in the middle of the road. The door slowly opens, and Emmett and his wife are gunned down in a hail of bullets. Then, on another night, the shooter who killed Emmett falls into Mike's hands, but he's still cocky, believing the cops have no evidence to arrest him. But what he didn't expect was the cop to say, "We're not looking to arrest you." Emboldened, the guy taunts them, "Aren't you cops? Come on, arrest me. You're all talk, no evidence." The three of them aim their guns right at the shooter. Then they take turns sentencing him, sending him straight to hell. The three of them once again break the rules for the sake of justice. After Rabbit's death, the town returns to its former peaceful state. And Carrie, now divorced, works as a waitress in a diner. Mike and Anna are also getting closer than ever. Because of Emmett's death, the police station gets a new member, a guy named Rue. He volunteered to come here from the Chino Police Department, and the reason he's here is to get away from the Chino tribe. On another front, Chayton and the other members are secretly plotting. For years, the tribe has endured devastation and exploitation from the white man. They don't want to keep living like slaves in this land, so Chayton decides to take back their territory. It's time we strike back. Both sides quickly jump into the fight, sending the goons promptly to the afterlife. Mike, receiving the urgent call earlier, rushes to the scene, immediately comes under heavy fire. The police are helpless, just watching as the money-filled car is taken by Chayton. Afterward, Mike goes to the Marine base, looking for the person in charge to get some answers. The colonel takes him to a storage room, not hiding anything, and tells him the whole story. Turns out the colonel wanted this place empty, so he could use it to stash weapons being shipped in from France from the war zone. But the next scene leaves Mike stunned. A warehouse packed with cash hits him right in the face. Turns out all this money is their buddies' loot from their missions, and it's all stashed here as a war fund. Right then and there, Mike gets the idea to rob this place. After leaving the base, he immediately calls Sugar, telling him everything he saw, treating it like a prize to be claimed. Even though this place is pretty high-end, for a top-tier hacker like Job, breaking into their management system is a piece of cake. After taking care of Rabbit, Job stayed in New York, planning to find a big score, but right now he's facing a major problem. "You're staring down the barrel of my gun. Let's see if you're faster than my bullet." He's a top-notch hacker, but this time he's landed himself in some serious trouble. Turns out these guys were trying to force Job to do something illegal, but Job, being slick, dropped a cryptic hint that made them suspicious. Before they could even figure it out, Job had already ducked on the table, followed by a hail of bullets. A guy clutching a briefcase scrambles out, then pulls a grenade from it. But just as he's about to toss it, he takes a bullet to the leg, a total self-destruct move that sets off explosives. The whole briefcase full of cash goes up in smoke, just like that. Turns out everything was like carrying water in a sieve, pointless. Meanwhile, Mike gets on his phone to call someone, probably to report some good news to the other end, but it doesn't look like Job's interested at all. "I just saw 800 grand to $1 million in cash." There's no way Job can resist a temptation that big. He decides to head back to town. The next day, The guys in the bar start hatching a plan. Job easily hacks into the other side system and tracks down the source of the money. Turns out, it was cash they'd jacked during an operation. Plus, there weren't any official reports about it. This means someone else is also planning to get their hands on that money. And that someone is none other than a Marine colonel. Turns out, he's a total wolf in sheep's clothing. After exposing his true identity, Carrie immediately felt the pressure. Following her divorce, she often went out looking for a good time, and she also had a complicated relationship with the colonel. That night, the colonel came to Carrie's room again, but she turned him down. She didn't want her personal feelings to interfere with the mission. Their relationship ended then and there. On the other side of things, Proctor called a few guys to meet him at the slaughterhouse. These guys were all in the same white flour business. But since Proctor's factory got bombed last time, and then the place was shut down and couldn't make any more products. After that, some people started eyeing Proctor's market share and taking it over. He's hoping this time they can strike a deal and work together. So he wants them to give back his market share. Everyone there knew how powerful Proctor was, so they weren't looking to start any trouble. But his son, on the other hand, didn't seem to give a damn about him. "We're not giving you anything back." Proctor was shocked. Who would dare to talk back to him like that? The kid's father quickly told his son to shut up. "I heard you used to be a real big shot, right? But now, you're not much of anything." Right then, Rebecca fired her gun. So obviously, there wouldn't be any deal going down. Rebecca was totally out of line, but Proctor didn't say a word to her about it. He even handed his gun over to her afterward. This guy was cleaning up in a mansion, but he wasn't the maid, he was a thug. As he was checking out his loot, an axe suddenly flew right at him. It was none other than Chief Nola's sister. After the chief died, she went back to the tribe again. She planned to kill Proctor to get revenge for her brother. The two of them instantly jumped into a fight to the death. From the looks of it, Nola wasn't going to stop until she got what she wanted. But Proctor's right-hand man had no intention of letting her walk away alive. Finally, he took off his glasses. After a few rounds of back and forth, both of them were soaked in blood. Nola put all her strength into one final blow, but in the end, she died by his hand. She thought she was coming to avenge her brother, but it turned out she was the one who ended up dead. Meanwhile, a guy silently broke into Mike's attic. Turns out, he was an FBI agent. He was there to investigate the disappearance of Detective Jim. But what Mike didn't know was that this agent had already found Jim's body and dug up Mike's file. It turned out the detective knew everything about him, including the fight with Rabbit at the church last time, and even his fake sheriff identity. So, the agents were going to take him into the federal headquarters for questioning. But while they were on their way back, Mike started to fight back. "You know what? I changed my mind. I don't want to go to New York with you anymore." The agent scoffed, saying something like, "You think you have a choice?" Mike confidently said that he always has a choice. With a few basic moves, he took the guy down. But right then, someone used a stapler on him. Little did he know, those guys were trying to catch a cicada, not knowing a sparrow was behind them, waiting to pounce. When he woke up, his first reaction was to try and escape, but it looked like Mike was out of options. He was locked up in the back of a truck. When he came again, he found himself tied to a chair, and there was a detective there in the same situation. Just then a big, heavy-set guy walked in. "My name is Raymond Brantley." "Brantley? That's the guy who gave you the money, right?" "Hey! I've seen some things that I can't unsee. Brantley is a moron." Mike then remembered that the guy was Jason's loan shark. But his target wasn't him, it was the real sheriff, who was also Jason's dad. "Where's Jason? I don't know who you're talking about." The guy was skeptical. "Really now?" "Yeah, I'm telling the truth." Following up on what Mike said, Brantley said, "If I were you, I'd at least pretend to think for a moment. You're not showing any signs that you're thinking at all." The guy put on some electrified gloves. He planned to use electric shocks to force Mike to reveal the kid's location. Even after a massive jolt of electricity, Mike didn't breathe a word. They opened up a hatch under the container and continued the interrogation. Finally, Mike couldn't take it anymore. He told the fat guy that he had killed Sheriff Hood and his son, and also robbed him of $62,000. That money was now at his house, not a penny missing. The fat guy decided to go back with Mike to get it, telling his subordinate to take the detective away and deal with him. After that, the two men took the detective out of the car. Now, there was only the nanny left in the truck, and right at that moment, Mike kicked Brantley in the leg, then managed to open a hatch underneath and pushed him out. At the same time, the detective had already dug himself a grave. Just as the two goons were about to make their move, Mike showed up and fired his gun. In the end, Mike saves the detective's life once again. Turns out he was only there to find out what happened to Detective Jim, and it had nothing to do with the FBI investigating Mike. So he promised he wouldn't report any of this to his superiors. But then he went and did something incredibly stupid. Turns out he left a file about Mike's real identity in a place where anyone could see it. And by the time he got back, it was too late. Turns out Anna had found out about his real identity. She couldn't believe that the person she had trusted all this time had been lying to her. She didn't want to hear any explanations from Mike. In the end, they went their separate ways. After getting back to the bar, he told Job everything. Job thought that Anna would expose his true identity, so she advised him to get out of there fast. But Mike didn't want to just run away like that. He wanted to explain everything to Anna clearly. However, the next day, Anna was nowhere to be found and no one was answering her phone. In this confusing situation, he decided to leave town with Job. That night, he went to see Carrie to say goodbye. Even though he didn't want to, leaving was the best option right now. On the way back, Mike made an important decision. He decided to do one last thing before leaving. Finally, he goes to Proctor's club all by himself. This guy, driven to protect justice, heads to Proctor's club alone. He's decided he's going to wipe this place out once and for all. After a brutal fight, where both sides take some serious hits, Mike once again breaks the rules and resorts to violence to solve the problem. Luckily, Officer Robert shows up just in time to save Proctor's life, and then, using his authority as a criminal investigator, takes him down to the station. And then, a stranger shows up at the police station. His name is Kurt, a former criminal who's turned his life around and wants to become a cop. So, he hands over his confidential personal records to Mike and waits for a response. But just then, Mike's crew arrived back at the police station and locked Proctor up. However, Proctor's lawyer was right there, defending him. He argued that Mike hadn't followed the law at all. And Proctor, he was speechless. Even though he once saved Mike's life, as a cop, Mike couldn't be lenient while Proctor was still in his town. Right then, Anna suddenly showed up. Mike was at a loss for words on how to explain things to her. But Anna said she wouldn't expose his real identity. She urged him to quit being a cop because she refused to go along with the illegal actions of a fake sheriff. So what happened next? Well, after that, he had to get out of Banshee, immediately. But right then, Chayton showed up out of nowhere and surrounded the police station. The surprise attack freaked everyone out inside. Just as they were about to storm the station, Mike managed to get the security system activated. Then, the operator tried to call for backup, but the phone lines had been cut by the other side. Right then, Kurt shows up, armed and ready, deciding to join the fight. He's taking down every single one of the guys trying to get in. Even though Mike is just a fake cop, he's willing to go through hell and high water for this town. That's when Chayton lays down his terms. Hand over Proctor and the cop Billy, and he'll let everyone else live. Mike hesitates for a moment, but in the end, he doesn't give in to Chayton. But at that point, they still don't have any other way out of this mess. Chayton, not getting what he wants, isn't leaving. Instead, he launches another attack. In all the chaos, the lawyer grabs the keys to the holding cells, trying to free Proctor, but out of nowhere, he gets shot and killed. The cops are scared out of their minds, and another criminal uses the chaos to pull the operator in and free Proctor. Proctor then opens up the cell door and just takes care of that criminal like it's nothing. This guy, armed and ready, stands guard at the door ready to risk his life to protect this last line of defense, while outside, there's a group of seriously aggressive criminals. Under the pressure of so serious firepower, the people in the police station are just leaving it up to fate. Mike and Proctor even put their beef aside for a minute and decide to go all in against Chayton. And right then, the station doors slowly open, stopping Chayton's attack again. The guy's lost his patience at this point. Mike, not one to just sit around and wait to die, decides to rush out and go head-to-head with Chayton's crew. But then, Proctor makes a decision. He's got no way out. So he's willing to gamble with his own life and swears that once he's out there, he'll figure out a way to save them. If I die, you stay the hell away from Rebecca. If I live, you and I are going to settle up. At that point, Mike could only leave it up to fate, waiting for Proctor to give them a chance to survive. Anna, on the other hand, had a new perspective on him and completely sympathized with the situation 15 years ago. Anna also changed her mind. She hoped Mike could stay in this town as sheriff. Anna had completely fallen in love with Mike. And right then, Billy makes a decision. He wants to negotiate with Chayton. But for the cop who killed his brother, Chayton shows no mercy. At the same time, Chayton's men burst in. With the help of the others, they finally take out all the enemies. But just as Mike arrives, Anna is taken hostage. Mike drops his weapon and begs him to release Anna, but Chayton slits Anna's throat right in front of him. Then, the sound of police sirens fills the air, and Chayton leads his men out of there. Mike, filled with regret, cradles Anna's lifeless body. Their dreams of a beautiful future together instantly vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Proctor rushes home, but he can't see his mother one last time. There's probably no pain like the pain of losing a loved one. The only thing he can do is pray for his mother. After the funeral, Rebecca's parents are heartbroken. They regret kicking her out of the family and hope she can return to them. But Rebecca has already closed off her heart. I can't forgive you. Meanwhile, a caregiver named Amy enters Proctor's room. Amy is the ex-wife of a deputy, and she's here to take care of Proctor's mother. After spending some time together, feelings start to develop between them. She's always there when Proctor needs comfort the most, by his side when he needs support. A group of Native Americans attacks the police station, killing an innocent female officer. After learning about this, the FBI sends a special task force to the town, also confirming that it's the place where Chayton leads a criminal gang. Right then, the task force found their target, a bunker camp located in a dense forest, so they decided to launch an operation immediately. However, this plan didn't allow for local police involvement because they didn't want Mike interfering with the operation. Meanwhile, on the other side, Proctor's partners arrived at the club to have a monopoly on the drug trade. They decided to double the order quantity and made Proctor guarantee not to supply to other gangs. Thinking about long-term growth, Proctor agrees. But his decision upsets Rebecca because she thinks doing this will cost them a lot of gang partnerships. However, Proctor believes that business is all about trust. Ultimately, the two sides reach an agreement. Meanwhile, the task force has finalized its plan and is ready to make the arrest immediately. But what they don't expect is that Mike and Job have already gone deep into the forest. He doesn't want Chayton to fall into the hands of the task force. So he decides to take matters into his own hands and get revenge for Anna. The two easily take out the bodyguards at the door and then sneak into Chayton's tent perfectly without anyone noticing. At this moment, Chayton is still fast asleep, but Mike doesn't want him to die too easily. So he grabs a dagger and places it lightly against the base of his throat. When Chayton opens his eyes, he's immediately stabbed in the stomach. The guard outside notices and rushes in to restrain Job, giving Chayton a chance to escape. Outside, after hearing the gunshots, the task force decides to move in for the arrest, but Chayton takes the opportunity to flee, and Mike quickly gives chase. After Chayton runs through the dense forest, he throws himself off a cliff, escaping from Mike once again. Back at the bar, Job is also getting ready to make a move. He's already hacked into the military surveillance system, but to get into the warehouse smoothly, they need to get the Colonel's fingerprints and voice. Meanwhile, Carrie meets the Colonel at a diner. The two are flirting, but the Colonel has no idea Carrie's already gotten what she wants, easily obtaining both his fingerprints and voice recording. Rebecca makes a decision on her own. She finds another gang in Villa Den FIA and secretly supplies them with drugs. She does this only to help Proctor minimize his customer losses. I like you, I do, but if you ever double-cross me, your uncle will be picking up the pieces, Rebecca confidently says. I'm looking forward to a long and effective partnership with you guys. The woman arrives at her horse stable, but bloodstains on the ground catch her attention. Just as she's bewildered, quiet or I'll kill you, Chayton suddenly appears in the stable. As he's about to take the woman away, unexpectedly, she doesn't run. Instead, She thoughtfully helps Chayton bandage his wounds. She's been without a husband or children for a long time and has even had negative thoughts, so she isn't afraid of death. Not only does she let Chayton stay, but she also thoughtfully prepares dinner for him. But right then, there's a sudden knock. Chayton immediately becomes guarded, thinking the woman has betrayed him. But when he realizes it's just her neighbor, Chayton relaxes his guard. Turns out the man wants to invite Lisa over for dinner. Lisa pretends everything is fine, trying to get him to leave. But as the man turns to go, the bloodstains on the ground make him suspicious. But by then it's too late, and Chayton's methods are unexpectedly brutal. The next day, Chayton drives off in the woman's car, and Lisa has been brutally murdered, left lying in the stable forever. Meanwhile, back at the bar, the guys are about to make their move, and their target this time is the military base. They drive up close to the base. Underneath the car is a tunnel leading into the base. Mike and the others start their operation, but they leave Sugar behind in the car. They enter the base through the tunnel and easily take out a few guards. Then they arrive at the warehouse door. Job puts on the gloves with the prep fingerprints and starts mimicking the colonel's voice, successfully breaking into the warehouse and finding a huge safe. This is a piece of cake for an experienced Carrie. Carrie takes out her lock-picking tools and easily cracks the safe open, revealing stacks upon stacks of cash. Sugar, on the other end, is grinning ear to ear. They pull out a big bag they prepared earlier and decide to take all the money. But just then, Sugar notices something's off. At this moment, the colonel has returned to the base. As he's about to enter the warehouse, he discovers his fingerprint access is denied. He immediately calls for the technician, but the results leave him utterly shocked. Turns out, the records showed the colonel went into the warehouse, and right away he knew something was off, so he ordered a team to get in there ASAP. How many? All of them. Then, the military swarmed the warehouse and quickly got it unlocked, but when they got inside, it was totally empty. The whole stash was gone, and they had escaped out the back of the warehouse. Just like that, they slipped out of the base, smooth and silent. The next day, the cops tracked down Mike and dropped a major clue on him. Turns out, Chayton had bolted to New Orleans. When he heard, Mike was ready to roll out their solo. But then the deputy chief made a huge call. "I'm going with you to take him down." After that, those two hit the road on a revenge mission to New Orleans, hunting down Chayton. Mike brought his guy to New Orleans, and their whole deal was to find Chayton and get payback. The two men, packing heat, were cutting through some thick woods when they spotted a house. That's when a cigarette butt on the ground caught Mike's eye. "Yo, what's up?" "Hold up." Just then, a bunch of guys came out of the house, circling them and pointing guns right at them. "You got the balls to come onto my turf. You better have a damn good reason." Mike instantly proved who he was, telling the guy they were there because of Chayton. Turns out, Chayton had been there, but the guy wouldn't admit it, cause he didn't want to get his whole family mixed up with some wanted criminal. Then the man gave Mike an address. He figured Chayton might be heading there. Even though he didn't know if the guy was playing them or not, Mike was still holding on to a sliver of hope and decided to follow. The deputy ahead. Meanwhile, in some underground fight club, loud and crazy, a crew was risking it all in a life or death game. That's when Mike and the other guys showed up, starting to hunt for Chayton. But now, a heavyweight fighter enters the ring. When he sees Chayton, Mike's face is calm, but his eyes burn with intense hatred, a desire to tear him apart right then and there. Both men's eyes are filled with murderous intent. Mike is thrown onto the arena floor, and the fight to the death begins. Chayton has experience in the ring. It's clear Mike is no match for him, but just then, Chayton freezes. The deputy reveals his true identity, but the boss of this place couldn't care less. Then, a few huge guys with weapons point their guns at him. Even though they could have overpowered them, they didn't dare shoot at the cops. Finally, the boss stepped in to stop them both. The deputy, afraid of making things worse, quickly took Mike and left. The two temporarily settled things, deciding to find a better time to deal with Chayton. But, surprise, Chayton decided to come to them instead. Now, both of them want. The other dead. After a fierce hand-to-hand fight, both are badly injured. "You're just a nobody. You're no match for me." Chayton jumps down from the balcony, and Mike quickly follows. Chayton is exhausted and cornered, so he stops. Without another word, Mike points his gun straight at him. With their great revenge complete, they throw his lifeless body into the river, then turn and walk away looking cool. At this point, the colonel, having found a clue, decided to give them a taste of their own medicine. A group of armed men broke into the farm, blatantly taking Proctor and Amy. Then, they brazenly drove away. At this moment, Rebecca was also helpless, only able to watch as they took her uncle. Proctor was then taken to an abandoned stadium and beaten up badly. Then a man walked over. This guy was the biggest gang boss in Philadelphia and also Proctor's partner. To get exclusive rights to sell drugs, the two sides had a deal, but Rebecca secretly sold drugs in another state, threatening the guy's market. Proctor didn't know anything about this, but now he's not trying to explain anything. Proctor wants to use money to solve the problem, but that just makes the other guy even angrier. Meanwhile, Rebecca goes to the police station hoping Mike will help her, but Mike refuses because he doesn't care if Proctor lives or dies. Just as Rebecca was about to leave in despair, she ran into the deputy sheriff and told him about Proctor and Amy. Even a single day as husband and wife means a lifetime of connection. After learning his ex-wife was taken, he begged Mike to help him one last time. I've gone through hell and back for you more than once. Now, I'm begging you. Finally, Mike agreed. He immediately called Job, telling him to track Proctor's location right now. Police, drop your weapons. The two stormed into the stadium. Mike fearlessly walked forward, then clearly stated his purpose. He didn't want any family involved and asked the leader to release Amy, promising not to interfere in the conflict between him and Proctor. The leader didn't want any trouble with the sheriff either, so they finally struck a deal. Let the girl go. Amy, let's go. No, I'm not going. Get out of here. Proctor didn't want Amy to get dragged into this, but now he couldn't just abandon her to her fate. As they were leaving, Rebecca showed up with her bodyguard, and as soon as he heard that Proctor was in danger, the bodyguard took off his glasses and went inside. At the same time, the leader left behind a lighter and ordered his men to take care of Proctor. Then, the bad guys quickly left the stadium. The henchman grabbed a gas and poured it all over Proctor's head. Just then, the bodyguard and Rebecca burst in, and Proctor was out of danger. From this moment on, he no longer believed in God and was ready to make his enemies pay in blood. Elsewhere, the colonel showed up alone at a bar, and his revenge was about to begin. Some thieves dropped in from out of nowhere, hit the military base, and cleaned out all the cash. But they didn't count on the army tech guy finding a lead. Sugar and Job's identities were confirmed through facial recognition. Then the colonel walked into Sugar's bar and threatened him. But Sugar wasn't scared. Do you want us both to go down? I will never lose. Just then, Job happened to walk back into the bar. Everyone knew Job's reputation. Turns out the tech guy was a fan of his. But what Job didn't see coming was the tech guy slipping him a sedative without anyone noticing. Job then hit the floor, his eyes glazed over. At the same time, Carrie also fell into the hands of the military. All she could do was surrender without a fight. They were then taken to a warehouse on the base. Neither of them expected to meet again like this. The colonel gets straight to the point, pressuring her to give up her accomplices. But Carrie, dead set on protecting Mike, stays completely silent because he's their only hope. Meanwhile, Mike heads back to the bar, but it's deserted, just a few bullet casings on the ground. His worst fears are confirmed. He recognizes right away their military grade. And get this, Job's fan is stoked. Being his biggest fan, he not only saw him in real life, but also caught him with his own hands. For him, Job is a money tree. Job, selling you off will bring in a high price. I'm going to squeeze every last drop of benefit from you. Meanwhile, Mike went to the base alone. He went straight to the colonel and confessed everything. But the colonel didn't dare to make a reckless move because it was clear Mike came prepared this time. He threatened the colonel, demanding he release his friend. If Mike wasn't safely out of there in 30 minutes, someone would report this to military headquarters. The colonel didn't dare escalate the situation either, because if headquarters found out about this, he wouldn't be able to handle the consequences. But the colonel wasn't about to let them go just yet. He made a deal. After a body check to make sure they weren't in any danger, Mike got to leave the military base. Cut to over here. Because of Rebecca's reckless actions, her uncle got dragged into this mess. But Proctor didn't blame her for heading to Philadelphia to settle the score with them, blood for blood. Later, Proctor's crew rolled into Philadelphia, met up with another gang, and brought along a little something they called a welcome gift. The whole point of this trip was to team up. They were planning to take down the biggest gang in Philadelphia together. On this side, Mike was ready to fight. Alone, determined to head to the military base and take down the carnage. But Carrie's husband suddenly appeared and decided to team up with Mike to take down the colonel at the base. The man arrived at the territory of the mob boss, calmly took off his glasses, and began a ruthless massacre. At the same time, Mike's car reached the military base, and he started his rescue plan. Along with Carrie's husband, the two infiltrated the base and launched a fierce attack. The surprise attack caught the colonel off guard, and he then ordered his men to bring the hostages. But when they got to the warehouse, there was no one there. He asked Sugar, but the innocent guy just shrugged. Without another word, Job charged out and took control. They fought fiercely inside and out, amidst the smoke and fire. But at this moment, the colonel had captured Carrie. The two began a hand-to-hand fight, and at the same time, the army's last sniper was shot dead. Unfortunately, Carrie's husband was hit, and Carrie became the colonel's trump card. The colonel was now cornered, a dead man walking with no escape. Mike didn't want the tragedy to repeat itself, but just as he was hesitating, Carrie's husband suddenly showed up and decided to open fire. After that, Carrie took matters into her own hands and dealt with the colonel. But Carrie's husband was now seriously injured, barely clinging to life, and then Job had an unexpected incident. By the time Mike realized it, it was already too late. Job had already been taken away on a helicopter. Mike didn't know what to do either. He could only watch helplessly as Job disappeared from his sight. Because the military base was burned down, the investigation bureau found out about it, and Mike was quickly summoned for questioning. When the deputy thought he was worried, Mike made an important decision. He voluntarily resigned from his position as sheriff, handed over his badge, and left. Although Mike didn't know where to go or what to do for Job's sake, he had no other choice. Mike was on his own now, and he had to figure out how to fight back. Meanwhile, Proctor's crew had taken over the territory of the gangsters and decided to completely uproot the biggest gang in the city. Finally, Proctor found Mike in an attic. Even though both of them were ruthless, they each had their code. The bad blood between them was finally over. The sheriff gig was not for him. Officer Brock was looking into a serial murder case, and then he stumbled upon a house in the woods. When he went inside to check it out, he saw a face that was both familiar and strange. He thought he'd skipped town for good, but nope, it was Mike showing up again out of the blue. Mike had been living off the grid in the woods for the past 2 years, trying to escape his old life. After that, Brock brought Mike back to the Banshee Police Department, and at this point, the police department has changed a lot. Even though Anna's picture is still on the wall, everything is just a memorial now. Brock has now become the police chief. A serial murder case has occurred in town, and Rebecca is one of the victims. Investigating through the GPS on Rebecca's car, they found out that before she was killed, she had passed by the house where Mike lived, which made Brock even more suspicious that he was the culprit. But Mike said it had been a long time since he had seen Rebecca, and the house he was living in belonged to Proctor. Mike advises Brock that he should be investigating Proctor instead of him. But Proctor is different now. He's now the mayor, controlling both the dark and the light sides of Banshee. Proctor had put Rebecca in charge of the drug business, not expecting that his niece would meet such an unfortunate end. But at this moment, there are no clues about the killer. After Mike returns to the small house, he sits on the floor dazed, and the scene flashes back to 2 years ago. Ever since Brock disappeared, Mike has been getting drunk every day, even considering death to escape the pain. Right when he was at his most desperate, Rebecca suddenly showed up. She couldn't bear to see Mike so miserable, so she took him to the small house and told him to pull himself together and start a new life. At that moment, Mike almost felt a sense of warmth, but tragically, Rebecca was brutally murdered, causing him to suffer another great pain. After that, Mike went to Sugar's bar. His sudden appearance surprised Sugar. He thought Mike had come back to get the money that was his, but Mike just wanted to ask him for one last favor. "I need a car." Sugar leads Mike to the garage and gives him his beloved car. Then, Mike drives to the place where Rebecca's incident happened, maybe only finding the murderer can ease his pain. And at this moment, Proctor has also arrived here. Both of them share the same goal: to quickly find Rebecca's killer. Meanwhile, Brock has arrived at Carrie's new place and told her about Mike. After her husband died, Carrie moved here to live alone. Because her in-laws won custody of her and her husband's child, she's now living a quiet life by herself in this place. Turns out 2 years ago, they were all searching for Job, but they couldn't find any trace of him. Mike is sure that Job is dead, and he decides to give up the search and turns to leave the bar. But today, after 2 years, Mike has returned once again and begun his path of revenge. The disheveled girl, sitting on the bed, continuously begs the man to spare her. "No! Don't do it, please, I'm begging." You. Cut. Prepare for the next scene. Turns out this is an underground filming location. Just as they're about to film the next scene, Sheriff Brock and his team burst in and stop them. Because there's been a serial murder case in town, and the victims are all young girls. Brock takes these people in for questioning. After returning to his office, Brock finds Proctor already waiting there. He wants to inquire about the progress of his niece's case, and demands that Brock report the situation to him daily. Although Brock doesn't want to, Proctor is now the current mayor, so he has no choice but to grit his teeth and comply. On the other side, Mike has tracked down Carrie's place, but he didn't expect that Carrie has been searching for Job's whereabouts for the past 2 years, but also without any results. Even so, Carrie hasn't even thought about giving up the investigation. That day, Carrie proactively looked for Mike and even brought along Mike's close friend from New York. Turns out, he had stolen the personnel files of everyone at the Banshee military base. Through the investigation, they discovered that everyone at the base is now dead, except for one person named Leo who is missing. Mike looks at his photo, but he knows for sure that this is the man who took Job. On the other side, Leo is teaching a computer class. Right then, he sees a few familiar faces. Leo immediately chooses to run away. But out of nowhere, an alchemist popped up, and then they drag Leo back to the bar. Not long after, under duress, Leo finally spills the truth. Turns out, Job is locked up in a highly secure prison. Moreover, that place is not under government control, and ordinary people can't get in at all. If they want to rescue Job, there's only one way: use money to bail him out. In this urgent situation, Sugar brings out the money they had stolen from the military base earlier, intending to use it all as ransom money. Then, Mike tells Leo to call the other side and set a clear time and place of the exchange. The next day, a black car drives into an abandoned factory, and then Job is brought out of the car. Job, imprisoned for 2 years, finally sees the sunlight again. He's become incredibly unkempt. As soon as he sees Mike, he finally loses control of his emotions. Just as they're about to leave, they're suddenly surrounded by a group of armed men. Turns out, they never intended to let them go and planned to take the money and grab them all too. "We are not making a deal. Hey, I just want to know, are you guys as many as mine?" Turns out, he had already set up an ambush here, ready to strike and catch the other gang off guard. But unexpectedly, Leo grabbed all the money and fled during the chaos, and in the end, they captured the leader alive. Face to face with the guy who had tormented him for 2 years, Job didn't hesitate. The man who had been in prison for 2 years finally regained his freedom today. After returning to the bar to celebrate Job's return, Sugar took out his prized 18-year-old bottle of liquor. But Job was feeling a bit tired. He wanted to get back the money that belonged to him, planning to find a new city to retire in. But little did he know that they had given all the money to Leo, and Leo had already run off with the cash. Job can't believe it. 2 years locked up, and he ends up with absolutely nothing. Right then, Brock and his crew suddenly show up. Turns out, they found Mike's blood in Rebecca's car. Before she died, Rebecca was pregnant. Plus, the test results are even more shocking. Mike was a father. Mike's got nowhere to run now, and the cops finally arrest him on suspicion of murder. The scene flashes back to 3 months earlier. Rebecca had discovered a drug lab, so she went to Mike for help. Then, the two of them went to the enemy's turf, planning to torch the place. Finally, they succeeded in destroying their hideout. Because of this, Mike was seriously injured. Rebecca then drove him back to a small house and carefully took care of him. After that, something happened between them that no one knew about, but Rebecca got pregnant and Mike completely forgot about it. No matter how he explained, Brock refused to believe him. When Proctor found out, he stormed into the police station, wanting to go to jail to get revenge for his niece, but he was stopped by the sheriff. Even though Proctor had become the mayor, he still couldn't just barge into the police station without any reservations. As the two were arguing, a woman suddenly appeared and stopped them. The woman's name was Veronica, an agent sent by the FBI to investigate the serial murders in town. At the same time, she assured Proctor that she would find the real killer. Finally, Proctor left the police station defeated. She then proceeded to interrogate Mike. Based on her years of experience, she was certain that Mike wasn't the real killer, but she didn't want to release Mike immediately because she knew that if he were released, he would go looking for the killer and seek revenge. The next day, another mass murder occurred in town, and the method used in these cases was the same. All the victims were cut open while still alive, and this wasn't the first case that had been discovered. During the night, Mike was found not guilty and walked out of the police station. When he returned to town, he discovered that his house had been engulfed in flames. Turns out, Proctor had come here. Even though Mike wasn't the real killer, Proctor still kicked him out of his house and ordered him to quickly find the killer and then bring back the person alive. This is a secret manufacturing plant. The goods that are produced here are sold all over the country, and the guy in charge of the plant is this man. The man's name is Galen, a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. But then Proctor walked in with his assistant. Turns out, Proctor is the big boss of this place. Everyone here works for him. Because Galen has secretly been developing a side business, Proctor came here to teach him a lesson. As the mayor, to avoid being caught, Proctor entrusted his assets to his gang. And now, Proctor's business has expanded overseas, becoming a top supplier in the market. At this time, Carrie was secretly watching his factory because her ex-husband always wanted to overthrow Proctor, so she wanted to stop Proctor's business. To wipe out this menace in the town, that night, she went to Proctor's factory alone and destroyed all the goods there. The next day, the gang leader came to Proctor because the factory was burned down due to their production. So, they tied up the person in charge of the factory that day to a tree, intending to use that as an explanation to Proctor. After that, the boss tossed the car keys to his subordinate, telling him to drive and take care of this. After a moment of internal struggle, the guy finally dealt with his brother. That night, Galen was drinking alone, drowning his sorrows, when his father-in-law walked in. Galen didn't want to be his dog anymore, so he did something terrifying. On another front, Mike and Veronica have started their investigation. Through their investigation, they're suspicious of a guy named Declan because he has a record of assaulting women. So Veronica used her connections to get info on the victim, and then she went to the girl's house alone. Turns out, she was assaulted by Declan years ago, but she claimed they were lovers because she got pregnant by Declan, which is why her parents were against it. And besides, Declan was already arrested by the police. Since his arrest, they haven't seen each other again. After a quick chat, Veronica felt like the girl was lying to her, but as she was about to leave, something unexpected happened. The girl calmly walked into the police station, but then she did something crazy. Turns out, this girl had a terrifying religious belief and was being manipulated by someone to attack the police. On the other side, Veronica was tied up hands and feet, and this guy was a serial killer. He would find young girls and use them to sacrifice to their gods. Meanwhile, Mike and the others were also looking for Veronica, but they couldn't find any clues. Then Mike suddenly remembered Veronica's daughter wanted to look for some clues in her mom's phone. After that, Mike went back to the bar to ask Job to get the call logs from the girl's phone. It didn't take long for Job to easily recover the call logs, successfully pinpointing the killer's location. Meanwhile, a ritual was about to begin. Just as they were about to cut open Veronica, Mike, and the sheriff arrived in time and caught the killer red-handed. Finally, Veronica took care of him herself. Proctor then arrived at the scene. After seeing the killer who murdered his niece, he emotionally thanked Mike. On another front, Leo had escaped to another city, but when he tried to log into his computer, he found the password was wrong. No need to go through all that trouble, though. After Leo saw Job, he tried to use money to buy his life. But he didn't realize that Job had already emptied all his accounts and transferred everything to his own. But Job didn't kill him himself. Instead, he framed him with his own identity. At this moment, Leo was carrying Job's identity. Turns out, Job had previously infiltrated many organizations and thus made many enemies. And now, Leo had to face the manhunt from the entire world. You can't do this to me. Meanwhile, Veronica brought that girl in for questioning. But the results were surprising. Turns out, Rebecca wasn't killed by that guy, which meant the killer was someone else. After Mike found out, he immediately went to Proctor's mansion. At the same time, an accident happened at Proctor's factory. Turns out, Galen had led a group to storm the factory and steal all the goods. Afterward, Proctor's assistant went into the gang's territory alone, trying to take back what was theirs. The man calmly sat on the chair, not at all afraid, facing the gang members. Then he slowly took off his glasses. After getting back what was his, Proctor went to meet with the smuggling group and had the goods ready as promised. But when the other party opened the truck to check the goods, Carrie suddenly appeared. But her purpose wasn't to rob them, it was to warn them. Banshee isn't a place where they can just do whatever they want. The reason she did that was to create a conflict between Proctor and the buyers. As Carrie was leading Proctor away, "Hi, gorgeous. Did you think I was going to let you go?" "No, I don't think so." Just then, a shell came flying in, hitting the truck carrying the goods. Turns out, the police had joined in on the action this time and decided to use violence against Proctor. Then, they drove Proctor's car to escape the place. The two of them were out of options. They had to take out all their opponents. But Proctor knew full well that the smuggling cartel wouldn't let him off the hook. Suddenly, a car came rushing in and pushed Proctor's car down a cliff. Unexpectedly, Mike suddenly appeared. Turns out, he had found Rebecca's necklace in Proctor's basement. So Mike thought he had killed his niece, but Proctor denied it. Just then, the two of them simultaneously looked towards the assistant, and then Mike handed the assistant over to Proctor and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, it turned out that the assistant was the one who killed Rebecca, but he did everything for Proctor. He thought Rebecca would cause trouble, but Proctor didn't hesitate and directly broke the assistant's neck. After everything was settled, Mike and Job went back to the bar. The two decided to leave Banshee and start a new life. As they left, Job left a black bag for Sugar. When he opened the bag, he found it was full of money. Maybe this was the only thing Job left for him. After saying goodbye, Job turned and left. Meanwhile, the smuggling group also arrived at Proctor's mansion, and by this time, Proctor was fully prepared and calmly faced his death. The end of the movie shows Mike leaving this place alone. That's the whole story of the series Banshee. What did you think of the show? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.